wook+live. Nice. Welcome back to Wook+. I'm Weekend Wook here for Wook+live. What's up, guys? We're joined tonight by the reigning Woody, Miss Benz. How you doing, Benz?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Great. I'm really excited to be back here again. I love Wednesday nights.
Our first ever guest from Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Live from Santa Fe.
Your Mexican cousins.
Is that not the most Santa Fe background ever? It's amazing.
Right?
It's like that song. Do you know the way to Santa Fe?
Exactly like that song. That doesn't exist.
That's not a real song, right?
No, it's Do You Know the Way to San Jose?
Oh.
So many people have said that to me this time, and I keep being like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's
First thing popped in my head was when you said Santa Fe was San Jose. I don't know. Sign me up for that Burt Bacharach
song.
That's a good bit. Is we just say random words and then Kev says the first thing that pops into his head. It's like a dark, creepy place in there.
Yep.
So tonight we're gonna kind of have a chill stream again. I don't know why. I just feel like that's more my speed lately, and we're just gonna talk and bullshit. Actually, someone on the YouTube comments on one of the microdoses, I think it was Michael Palmer, suggested some topics and got my head going about like just random like Wook topics we could talk about. So I figured we'll take advantage of this the situation, having Ben's here in the Wook panel to talk about things. Who is that? Is that UT?
Probably. It's probably Alex in the board.
Mute her. That's all right. So let's kick things off with the first topic that Michael suggested, and that is your best Phish lot or shakedown. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Benz, you want to kick us off with this?
Oh, sure. I'll go first. So I had heard someone say about the Dick's lot that it's like the Deer Creek lot on steroids.
That could be true.
I don't know I almost am like, was it you that said it?
I was gonna say that sounds exactly like something I would say. I was gonna ask you, but I was embarrassed if it wasn't.
Well, I can't remember who said it. It easily could have been you. But man, I definitely think it's like I want to say those two places have the best lot scenes, but I think we're all a little like biased towards Dick's and Deer Creek because they're just epic for many reasons.
Well, especially with us and our crew, right? Like, actually, we were at the same crew for both of those, and I really liked that the last 2 years because it like starts the summer and then ends the summer, and it just bookends like, you know, this beautiful experience. But I feel like Deer Creek lot is really good, but not as good as it used to be, and there's some like nostalgia or I don't know.
Deer Creek is hot. It's in the middle of a damn cornfield. I mean, every time I was there, I haven't been there since
like a sand pit.
I haven't been there since the last millennium. But the last time I was there, it had to be 110 degrees, and you're in a cornfield, and there's nothing but
right. Right, like but if you hydrate and drug responsibly, it could be a lot of fun. Like
you put suntan lotion on and it just melts off your skin before you can rub it in. It's like that hot out.
You put suntan lotion on, you're like, somebody cooking bacon? What's going on here?
I think that for me, I had a great time at the Man's lot just because it was like in a park and there were trees and, you know.
Yeah, I like that. And I put Bethel in that category too, of like the big grassy knoll type lot. And I actually don't like the Man as a venue unless you're in the shed, but like up on the lawn, it's terrible. But that does have a great lot. But that's what's great about Dick's though, is you could go to the grassy knoll if you want, or you could go to like the Dust Bowl shakedown.
I need Dick's. I need for it to rain 15 minutes every morning before everyone shows up, and it would tramp the dust down.
Yeah.
He was walking around with a bandana on because it was so dusty.
It was nasty. That dust kills my allergies, man. Like it's all the. Yeah,
up in your nose and stuff, bandana's key for like, especially post show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
I don't think there is a lot for MSG, Michael.
It's the whole city.
Well, so I thought for like the bakers, and I don't remember when they did the construction. I always considered that like outside of Penske and like in between MSG and Hotel Penn, there used to be those like benches and like paved areas, and you would have like the bands, like the Sousa band out there after the show and the balloons, and it felt like a lot in the city, and it was really magical. And I think one of the reasons New York hasn't been the same for Phish the last couple of years is because they have all those scaffolding and construction up. So there's really nowhere to go. You have to get back into the normies before you can relax. And then you're taken out of the experience. Not to say there's not great shit to do in New York, but like there was something special about you leaving the show. You go through the tunnel and you still have a place to hang out, have a smoke or something and still be in the Phish experience. T, what about out west? I feel like you need to represent a little bit and throw in some of your venues. Any good lots out there?
In the history of ever lots, or like
it has to be a Phish venue, a place Phish played.
I don't know. Michael Palmer, this was your topic. Give us some
guidance.
I
could have called up
some
I'm always biased,
lots. But I always liked Red Rocks a lot, even though there's 3 different ones. If you got in that lower lot, it was awesome. Like you play full frisbee down there. Like that was like a real lot scene to me. Like you could do like back then you could bring full kegs.
You had to walk up. Then you had to walk
the water. Yeah. Well, if you parked in the up, it was nice because you walked down, but nobody parked up there. So like you were just kind of hanging by yourself. But if you're in the lower lot, it was sweet. Like everyone was down there partying and raging.
I see the chat shouting out the Blossom lot, and I have to agree. It's a good one. Yeah. It's a good one.
I tell you what, Buckeye Lake used to have the greatest lot. It sucked driving into North Baltimore, Ohio, there, Licking County to get there, but that lot was just so fantastic. And it was the kind of place where they just didn't bother. You stayed there.
I feel like out here, I mean, the Forum has an okay lot, but they kind of don't let you hang out too long afterwards. Pre-show, it's kind of fun. You can hang out in.
Is hard because space is so much more expensive and parking so limited that
like the bowl has no lot because it's just on Franklin there. Like so, you just kind of get emptied out onto what is it like, whatever Highland there or whatever. And so like you just walk down the sidewalk with all the vendors and the tanks and everything. But one modern day lot, which is sort of crazy, was the Sacramento show. Where that arena is located like right in the middle of sort of a outdoor mall type area where there's like restaurants and bars and like shops, and then as you walk out and down the street it's just lined with bars, which was really cool because then after the show you could just go straight to the bar and like hang out. Like there wasn't really a lot, but you could like do that. Other than that, Phoenix had a cool lot because it was actual. A lot of places don't have lots anymore, right? Like it's like MSG, it's like a parking garage or like structures, or like Ben said, you park far away, like St. Louis.
Fucking Merriweather.
Merriweather used to be great, and then
used to be great. Now it's a shit.
Right, and now they change everything. Like I was like St. Louis, you had to walk across a baseball field and down the street to find the lot, and then once you got there, it was set up great, but it was like a 20-minute walk from the venue to get there. So
were any of you at the Alabama shows this year? Because that was like also weird. It was like that venue was literally in a shopping center.
Yeah,
really.
I jumped on.
It was weird.
I jumped on in Charleston, and that was similar. It was like you were like in this downtown little area, and there was no like real lot.
Yeah. I will say for West Coast though, even though it's not technically a lot, like Bill Graham in San Francisco is right behind Civic Center Park. So like you have this big park in front of you. And like generally in my experience, police were pretty chill about it, especially that time when Phish was playing there and the Giants or whoever won the World Series. Like that night, the cops had like way more important things to do. So Phish fans were getting away with a lot of shit.
They look over, they're like drunk sports fans or drunk or
right.
fucked up
like,
hippies.
These
they
people
go for
are burning cars
fans.
and couches. Like we'll let these kids sit here with their balloons. Who cares?
All right, my backlog, my mind's backlog is about to overload. So I want to run through a couple of things I've been holding on to, notes from chat. Someone mentioned SPAC, and I have to give that an honorable mention. There's a lot of shortcomings with SPAC, like the lawn and a lot of other things, but being in that park, have you guys been there? It's really fucking great to just be in nature. It's like surrounded by nature. It's a beautiful venue. I think that definitely should get an honorable mention. And then I like that question someone posed. What makes a good lot though? Because we're running in and listing things, but what actually do you think constitutes a really great lot?
To me, it's space. To me, it's like actually having cars parked in a designated area that you can we set up the canopy, kick the chairs down, walk around if you want, have people come over to you. Like that to me is a lot. Like that represents everything to me.
I'll throw in local law enforcement, how cool they are or not. Whether they send undercovers in, they have officers or an armed presence standing there, Or
I don't mind them walking through, but I don't like it when they're hardcore, rustling stuff.
I don't want them anywhere near me.
But the undercovers though on Shakedown, there's a couple of venues where you could see them. Right. They have the fucking earpieces and shit, and they're built like a motherfucker, wearing a tie dye with the crew.
Where's the good mushrooms?
You have that MDMA.
Well, see, but I always think back to Dick's, the security, they don't really come through. They kind of stand by the entrance with the dogs and just kind of hang out there. And if you're not fucking with them, they're not going to fuck with you.
But cannabis is legal in Colorado too. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the difference to me. I think
and it isn't in Deer Creek, is it? In Indiana.
No, Deer Creek, not.
I think that's crazy. Places that still bust you for weed is ridiculous.
And they're all about it. They see you. They see us as a payday. They see us as a payday.
No,
so $150 ticket to everyone. They don't even want you to show up for court. They want you to pay $150 ticket.
Of course not. Yeah.
But I gotta disagree with you, Kev, because I've heard this take before, where you feel in your mind like Deer Creek's just full of sheriffs walking around with their badges and shit. It's really not. Once you're there. Chill. You're chill. The problem is you got to drive there
through enemy territory. You got to drive behind enemy lines to get there.
Right. Driving through those cornfields is a really it's crazy experience. It's just miles and miles and miles of corn. What I like about Deer Creek though, and I don't think this is a good thing for them on purpose, but they don't even monitor their parking lots, like parking attendants, because they get so overwhelmed. They just let the fans drive in and figure out the roads.
Dick's
and everything.
Did that. Dick's just opened up the lot. People are just.
They had guys pointing though.
Yeah, they try to at least row you out, and not leave it up to everybody.
And they don't let you in early. Deer Creek, they were because I asked the lady, because they were just letting people in whenever and let them go anywhere. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? That's going to be a 5-mile line down the highway. We have no choice. So they just let you in.
I remember overhearing that conversation. That was
kids. Dr. Dave said parking's free. Meriwether parking is free. I think the parking was free at the Man. I think it's included in the ticket. It's probably one of those 97 fees that you pay.
We learned this year that if you just get to Blossom early enough and pay them $20, they'll bring you in as a vendor. And that was how we ended up with a little setup on Shakedown this year. Was my brother wanted to get there super early. We got there super early. They asked, "Are you a vendor?" He just said yes, and they were like, "Okay, $20," and you just gave him $20.
Is that normally your game plan? Let's jump ship to the other thing. Is that normally your game plan?
I mean, I'd never done a Phish show that way before. That's definitely not normally my game plan. I do like to get to lot early enough to wander around and see what they're selling and make sure I've eaten something before going into the show.
Yeah.
And then, man, time just seems to fly because at Dick's this year and at Deer Creek, there were a few days we got there early, around 3 or 3:30, and all of a sudden, before you know it, it's time to go in. Yeah, it's time just flies.
I need to get myself together.
I think you got to get as much time on lot and at the venue as you can. I'm on that camp that it's a whole part of the experience, and if I'm showing up and rolling in right before showtime or whatever, I'm losing out on a large part of the experience.
See, I think on a 4-day run, by the 4th day, I could see showing up right before the show kind of thing.
Yeah, because you're old and tired.
Definitely. And it also depends a lot to me on if you have seats or if you're going GA or the floor or whatever, kind of really determines.
Or if you're waiting online for the rail.
Where I'm going. Because MSG for those shows, you can just sort of wander in whenever.
Oh, yeah, I'll stay at the bar until 10 minutes before it's time to go in. Yeah.
Right. But Dick's, I always like to be on the floor. And I mean, it used to be, or get there early, get in line up. I think the earliest I ever did it was the Forum in 2015. We went over there at 11:30 the night before and spent the whole night in the parking lot, camped out with. And this is what's even crazier. the kids, there was a line there already, and we were like kind of got in line with these kids, and there were kids, and we were like, oh hey, talking to them, and then like we realized they were in line for 21 Pilots, who was playing the night after Phish, and they were already camping out, and they had there was a crew of them like already, and so we started our own line going the opposite direction, and they went that way, and we just all hung out, and my buddy Alex and I were there, and we got there 11:30 at night, and ended up. They were playing in San Francisco that night, so people were driving down still, and some people from LA showed up. And so all through the night, like as the night went on, people kept showing up, and then by like 5, 6 in the morning, you started getting the early.
Were you spent for the show though?
Not
Being
really.
up all night the night before?
Because then what happened was they handed out the wristbands early at like 10 o'clock or whatever, and then you could leave and come back and line up at like 2 or 3 or whatever. So we just came home, napped. And that was the only time I ever had like a 1 on my wristband. Like me and Alex had the first 2 things.
It sounds amazing, but I don't know that I will ever do that. Like I want to do it once. I haven't.
Exactly. Once was awesome. Like, I mean, dead center in front of Trey. It was awesome. Like
I've never been on the rail though. And I feel like it's such a commitment.
Dude, why? I'll get you down on the rail.
Go to Nashville. Just go to Nashville.
Oh, too soon. Too soon.
The rail is hard. I don't want
to be
all those
down
people
there
looking at me.
Right.
I was on
the chance of being on the webcast. No, thank you.
No, thank you. We don't need
thank
documentation of this.
I've already been on national television. All right.
I have great stills of me from the webcast when they were doing Golgi on the Encore. I'm like jumping up in the air, like right on the rail, like raging. It's so funny to see, like look back, like oh my god. But I will say it's an experience. It's almost addicting too if you don't do it a lot and you get down there like, holy shit, this is a totally different experience. Like it's just the band and me and like
and this awesome private club that I figured out how to get.
Well, exactly. And you're like,
when are they going to send me my membership card?
Yeah. So
see, I don't know. Part of my favorite part though is like watching the crowd. Like we talk about CK5 and like, being on the rail or whatever, but like think about what they are seeing, like what Trey is looking at. It's just way more interesting to me than what we're looking at.
I people watch often,
except for the lights. I'm not counting CK.
Well, yeah, and like MSG, it was so fun to just sit there and watch the floor going crazy, during like first tube, and everyone just bound, and it just depends on what you want to do for the show. That's why I like going kind of everywhere. I don't have a set place where
when
I'm like,
did
I
they
have to
start?
be there.
Was the rail thing started in like 2.0? Because I don't ever remember it. I know at Hampton one year we walked up.
The new boomer bit. Back in my day, we didn't do that.
I mean, back in my day, Bobby talked about everybody moved back because the friends up front were getting bug-eyed. So I think
can't you remember like even in the 90s at Red Rocks, it was just like show up early because once you get in, you got down like it was all GA down front. So it was like the earlier you got there, the better your seats would be once they opened the gates. And then it was like, back in the tarping days too, when you'd run in with a tarp and throw it on the tarp across the thing and have 25 people save it. But, even back then it was like, if there was GA, it was how close, first come, first serve basically. And you could spend the night and do that kind of thing, just like getting tickets. But now it's a little bit more like you got to get the numbers, you play the lottery.
What exactly do you mean, Kev? Was there no rail when you were a youth?
No, but like when in 95 at Hampton, we went in at 7:30. The shows, they came on at 8. We walked up and stood in front of the band. No one stopped us. Nobody waited all
way to the front.
Right. There were like really upset fans that had their night ruined and he had no idea. He was like, I just walked up front. It was fine. Nobody cared.
No, there was like it was not crowded. There weren't people sitting there waiting, There were just people milling about. And
even those pictures that Mencken showed from Keystone, though, people were lined up outside, and then they got in and were sitting down front in front of, like on the floor in front of Jerry with no rail. To your point, Kev, there was no boundary there. It was just the band in front of you.
I saw Eminem one year at HFS Festival at RFK, and I was on the rail in the front row. And when Eminem came on, everyone started pushing forward, and they had to yank me out of the crowd over the rail. And then they were like, go back there, and they pointed for a way to go. I went backstage and found beer and just hung out backstage and drank beer for Eminem.
Apparently,
I was just sitting in Eminem's green room hanging out.
He wasn't invited, by the way. That's how he interpreted it, but he just snuck into their green room. I think that rail crashing is like really common in other like bands and like music genres. Like My wife's a huge like what's the fucking band called?
Chemical Romance?
Yeah, My Chemical Romance. So I took her to go see them, and they had to stop the show 3 times. And the guy was just like, "All right, everybody, take a step back." And like, because there was some like poor girl that was like literally getting squished to death in the front, and so they stopped playing music, stopped the show. They're like, "Everybody, take a step back," and they had to do it 3 times. I was like, "Can you imagine?"
Take another step back.
That's like when you see like what are the Glastonbury and those shows, like the people down in front, like it's like, I mean, you do get even, I mean, when I used to go to Coachella, we'd kind of get down there, and as bands leave and come on, you know, you kind of shift and move up, and when you get down in there, it gets really claustrophobic and like really kind of scary, because you're like, there's no way out of it. Like I'm in this, like I'm stuck, so it can get a little hairy. I think the thing about Phish shows is if you're in the middle of the floor, it's a little sketchy, but the closer up front you get, and this is where we get into weird conversations, but they build like a bubble, right? So like if you're inside that bubble, you're pretty safe, because they keep the space kind of,
and that's great for you guys. I'm right, you. But if you've ever been one of the people, which I have, on the brink of the bubble, just outside the bubble,
sucks.
And you're like this, dude, listening to a song, and you're watching those fucking people,
because more people keep coming in.
It's very frustrating.
Right, it's stuck. Oh, I agree. There's pros and cons, just like anything. The pro is if you're inside it, you're protected and you're not getting squished like most rails are.
The problem is not to fuck with the people up front that have the bubble. The key is to tell the rest of the fans to chill the fuck out, and everybody have a bubble. Right? Like it doesn't matter if you're 20 feet away or 25 feet away, right? Like just give each other some space.
Maybe we all need to come in bubbles, like actual bubbles.
You can also adopt a style of dancing that will keep people away from you. So think about throwing punches. Like, yeah, exactly. It's been done before. I've seen it.
I have to say the Dick's Rain Night this past year up in the stands was the most amazing show experience as far as like location and space, because coming into those shows, you're always like, everybody's trying to keep the crews together, but it's hard as it fills in. But having everybody leave and come back in together, we just had this huge crew that was just perfectly lined up, and it was just perfect. I don't know if I'll ever have an experience like that again, where you have such a comfortable way to see a show.
You called me your guardian angel that night.
Well, it was it's like one of these like holier than now moment, you know, not holier than now, but
still
like,
kicking
that
myself.
was a fantastic night though, all around. That was
still
awesome.
Kicking myself for not bringing beer. I left, went out to the car, threw up because I was so high, and fucking had a beer, and instead of grabbing a second one, because you could have walked the tank in there. They weren't even looking for anything.
You could have brought anything in. It was crazy getting back in. I did the same thing. I went out the car because I'm deathly afraid of lightning. So when the lightning hit, I was like, I'm going to the car. I'll see you guys. So I went out the car, grabbed a couple balloons right into like the tank guys, grabbed some balloons, grabbed some cold beers, and then
those big 40s, the $40 balloons that were like this big.
They were on sale for $35 because it was raining.
Kev, as somebody that loves you dearly and that was with you, I'm glad you didn't bring beer into the show. I think you were good. You just had to coast. You were fine. It was all right.
It was good.
Your
brother was the man with the plastic bottle and bringing whiskey in every night.
Yeah, well, that's a side of or a holdover from the Baker's Dozen, because we were broke doing that run and in New York at the bars and shit. So we figured out that they don't pat you down, and we just brought in like pints and fifths, like plastic bottles, so it wouldn't trigger. And then you just get like a $5 Coke or whatever, or mix, or just take shots. And I don't drink anymore, so like not as much as I used to, so it's not as much of a thing. But that's a good tip if you're a big drinker and you don't want to spend crazy amounts of money at shows.
That's a good tip.
All right,
blackberry brandy.
Take a little breather here. This is a nice pause. I used to fear those like awkward pause in the show. I felt like when we were live, we just had to be going balls to the wall for an hour straight. And I think, it's okay to just take a second.
Take a breath.
Yeah. You guys want to jump into another topic?
Sure.
Well, first, please like, subscribe, follow, ring that bell, leave a comment if you're watching this after. We see Chad is active today. We love you, Chad.
Yeah, happy birthday, Chad. And if you're watching this after the fact, tell us what your favorite lot is and your show strategy. See, we heard this thing that engagement with comments boosts us in the algorithm. So we got to encourage you guys to engage with us. So I really don't give a fuck what you comment. Just leave us a comment. You could say anything. It'll be great.
I do want to say one thing about show strategy too is it's really hard trying to plan anything with anybody. It's you know what I mean? Like trying to meet up before a show, trying to meet up after a show is pretty much impossible. But like we're famous for that too. I know because we're like, yeah, we'll definitely hang out and meet up, and then it's like
you think you have all the time in the world and you have 10 minutes really.
Well, yeah, you have 4 days, but really you don't because then the days go so quick, and then you're hungover. Like Kev said, by day 4 you're done. Day 3 usually you're halfway done. So you're like, I'm not getting there early today. Like I'll see you guys when I see you. So
we had 5 cars follow us to Merriweather, and we get up to the lot, and they let my car in, the first car, because it was a bus and it was too high, and they turned the other 4 back. But we made it all the way fucking 20 miles, the 5 of us together, only for the parking lot to be like,
that's
fuck
right.
And then once you're separated, it's like, all right, well, maybe we'll see you on, maybe not, like whatever.
Well, and going from point A to point B in a Phish lot is never straightforward. Like you're gonna run into someone, you're gonna get distracted by something, some like random crisis, not even like crisis, but like some random thing is gonna happen. Suddenly you're like on this adventure, like this totally separate side quest.
Those side quests in the lot are great.
We had
happens.
We had Steely Tom though and Spam Madness going in early to Merriweather both nights, and they staked out right on the pathway of the lawn where the second part of the lawn.
That's the strategy. You don't go in early. You run with the crew of people that like to go in early, and they stake out your spot.
You need all different types of people in your crew, right?
Yeah.
To have a successful crew. You need
roles.
the mom. You need the guys who are going to go in early. You need the people who are going to,
the people that bring the drugs.
The people who bring the candy.
I will say though that what you're describing about like being able to meet up and do things kind of became like this holy mission from God. Like what is that? Like Bill and Ted? Like here's your with the whole wook+
Blues
setup.
Brothers. You're on a mission.
Blues Brothers. Yeah. Because originally the whole wook+ setup with the tents and the flags and everything was like, oh, we're gonna broadcast or we're gonna like do this thing. But what we quickly realized was it became a hub for all these people that wanted to find a place to meet and to like have things. And also the last 2 summers it was fucking incredible to have the flags flying. And it was almost like when you had lost on these side missions or whatever, that's where you would, there was like one spot that everybody would go to that kind of set that up.
But on that note, it requires showing up early and getting the spot. So like,
right, which I stress the fuck out until you're there. Once you're there, it's incredible.
We're like, oh my God, we got to go here. We got to pick up this and we got to get there. And then like, yes, but yeah, I hear you. And that's what's fun though. If you can set up a home base and a spot to have people come to and they know where you are, it's fun to like have that place to meet up at and stuff. I do want to throw a quick way to stay awake tonight, Makita. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
I should send him the link. He should come on. Do you think he'll come on?
He should.
You could try it.
Pass out.
Don't twist his arm.
But that's a good point, Tim. And anytime, especially if we do
what is
gigs
it,
again
9
this year.
there?
Set up.
It's 9:30.
He's an old man, but he's our old man.
So what is the next question?
All right. Well, it was your tweet. So why I send Makita the link? Why don't you set up the
I tweeted out if you could talk to Trey about one show, get him to listen to a show and talk about it with you, which show would you pick? And I was going to go with 22093, but what would you guys think?
Why? Well, why don't you tell us why you go with 22093?
The Mike song, the way that it has lizards and Divided Sky, maybe Tweezer. He has all the other solos, and the band's playing Mike's song, just going off pages on the organ, and Trey's like, playing the lizards ending over top of it. And I wanted to just, was it planned? I mean, the Tweezer's crazy too with the walk away in it. It's just
wait. So is the premise of the question that you're talking on that night? After the show?
Yeah,
no,
now. Hey, listen to this
I
show.
have a feeling he'll be like, I have no idea what the fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't remember.
But if he listened to it, maybe he'd be like,
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. It's cool.
All right, so the premise of the question is that Trey would both remember the show.
Right. We got to set up.
But that's why you have him. That's why you have him listen to it, because he goes back and listens to it and can say, "This is why I." I
mean, I don't know. I'm not Trey, but I feel like even if he listened to it, he probably still wouldn't remember. He's played thousands of fucking shows. Like thousands.
You could play me back any work meeting I've ever been in. You know what I mean? And be like, do you remember saying this? And I could watch myself say it and be like, nah.
I have no idea what I did.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't even know what day. Like, I had no idea what I did 5 hours ago.
I mean, he might remember certain shows that stand out to him for a certain reason, playing wise. But I think it would be more about like moment, like I'd ask him about like the first time they played Red Rocks, like what was that like, what was that feeling like finally making it there, like the Vegas 96 show when they had Primus and like all the craziness in there, like what was that like? So like moments that were like, do you remember this, and what was that like what was your feeling finally breaking through and playing Red Rocks, and then what was it like when you couldn't play there anymore, or what was it like when you came back in 09 and got to go back and play those 4 shows again there, and then never go back again? What were those moments like, as opposed to like specifics like what was it like when you played from Antelope into that Divided Sky that one night? You'd be like, dude, I don't fucking know. Like, it was awesome.
I have 2 things that came to mind. I can't talk and read at the same time.
I'm gonna put you up here so when they put comments up, they stop citing you.
Oh, thanks.
Kev, you got the bad seat tonight. Usually it's me. It's good to see you down there this time. Usually spots me over
there. 2 came to mind, or 2 things came to mind that I would ask about. One is, I feel like I reference this show all the time, and it's both out of character and like was also one of the coolest things I'd ever seen, which was 2014 when Phish played Bill Graham Civic Center, was when the Giants won the World Series. And I don't give a fuck about sports. I really don't. But I just remember that night was so magical because like a bunch of the crowd didn't even come into the show on time. They stayed in the bar to watch the game end. And wow, you could hear like the cheers ripple from the bars in the back, like I don't know, in the concourse or whatever, the venue, ripple into the crowd as people found out what happened. And it literally went, I wasn't riding the rail and I wasn't in the pit, but I was like very close to the front at this time. And you could feel like the energy ripple towards the stage. And they went from Moment Dance seamlessly into We Are the Champions, seamlessly out of it back into Moment Dance. And it was just like, they did the colors, they did like the orange, lights or whatever. It was so cool. And I think that's a moment Trey would remember. And my question, I guess, was like, did you go into the night saying like, oh, if the Giants win, we're going to do this?
And I would say yes, because the same thing happened in St. Louis. And they
how many times has that happened? That's crazy that they're in the city that wins a championship the night they win a championship more than once. That's a weird oddity.
That is a really odd coincidence to have happen. And they were in Chicago right after the Blackhawks, the day the Blackhawks did their Stanley Cup parade, the first time the Hawks won the cup. And Trey made a comment about like, you guys beat my Flyers or whatever to win the cup, blah, blah, blah. And they just happened to be there that night too.
All right. I want to go back to Ben's because I know she had another one, but that pisses me off a little bit that he's a Flyers fan and goes to all these fucking Rangers games. Because if you like hockey or familiar with the Northeast, Rangers, Devils, and Flyers, that like triad, they're all fucking
and Islanders
each other.
And Islanders.
No, nobody gives a fuck about the Islanders.
Yeah, the Islanders don't really.
Nobody gives a shit about the Islanders.
Some people like the Islanders.
Nobody gives a fuck about the Islanders.
But they don't dominate like they did in the 70s when they won 4 straight. So
I forgot. I'm sorry, Boomer. But no, it's like, oh, I'm a diehard Flyers fan, but I'm gonna go go support the Rangers.
But sometimes you gotta just go if you like hockey. It's like me, like I can't go to Avs games, so I go to a lot of Kings games, and you end up just kind of being a fan of the team because they're in your city and you go a lot to see them. But yeah, I hear you though. It's a little. At least he doesn't wear Rangers gear. He wears $1,000 sweatshirt.
More than one team? Is it like jam bands?
You're not allowed. No,
you're not allowed to like more than one team. Got it.
I didn't get the rules sent to me. I'm a little. I'm waiting for
keeping
that.
Sports here, Wook.
I know. Well, it's funny because I grew up hating Philadelphia, and then I moved to Philadelphia like 10 years ago or 5 years, and now I'm becoming a Phillies fan. Like in general, the Philadelphia teams.
Dude, and it's a Tampa Bay fan.
I know, but it's tearing me inside out. Well, not football so much, but like baseball. I was really getting into the Phillies this year, and I guess I'm happy for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Like I'm not like following. I wouldn't say I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm happy for them. Like because. Literally everyone I know, all of my coworkers, my neighbors, dude, fucking Eagles fans are hardcore.
How is it riding those coattails?
No, I'm conflicted. That's what I'm saying. I grew up hating them, like literally despising them, and now I'm like happy for them, and I hate myself for it. It's a terrible situation.
Well, both times the Eagles have been to the Super Bowl, they've had to play. Like I hate the Chiefs, and I didn't want to see the Patriots win, so I've been forced to root for the Eagles. And I'm the same way. I've never been an Eagles fan. Like their fans drive me crazy. But yeah,
I love that we're talking about sports.
Sorry, Ben. Back to
do you know that the Orioles, since Phish started playing as a band, the Orioles have not won a World Series. So I'm waiting for Phish to break up. So
Did you know Kev was like, you know what this needs? More Baltimoreisms. Like, we're talking about sports, but let's make it about specifically Baltimore. That'll really
crab cakes and football.
wait, Benz, did you have another?
Oh, I have one more thing. I would ask Trey about musicals since I know he's scored one.
Oh
at
yeah,
least.
Hands on a Hard Body.
Yeah, and I just wonder, like, is he going to do more of that? Like, what's the influence that has on him other than his singing, that his new vocal stylings?
Broadway Trey.
Yeah, Broadway Trey. So
yeah, it's funny. I feel like that was like always a life dream of his, at least from what I could tell from all the interviews about it, but it wasn't super successful. And I almost feel like it might be a bad, you're right. That would be a great thing to ask him about, right? Because like it feels like there's a lot of complications and emotions to it.
Yeah, well, he's always done things that are like kind of different, like the symphony thing with orchestras he's done. So it's like, I wonder what else he would want to do that's not Phish or Tab, that's just like of a different
I would like to
variety.
see Trey do a movie soundtrack.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Maybe for Gamehenge.
A horror movie.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking like Gamehenge is like, it's essentially a musical. If you want to call it a rock opera, that's fine. But like, it is a musical.
Would you really want to see them invest the time to do something with Gamehenge at this point? Because I wouldn't.
I think to Benz's point, it would be fun as a musical, like something different that's not as straightforward, but like where they break into the song, like where you have the cast singing and stuff. I think that would be fun and creative.
I don't want them to do. I mean, I would love it if they did. So I don't know why I'm saying this, but I feel like I'm not as interested in like, oh, we're gonna do a movie or a series or something. What I would love to see is a proper playing through in a concert setting, like a Phish show where you come in and they play through The Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday. Like,
that would be a great Halloween.
I know, man, you're cool, and they did it in the 80s, so like, fuck everybody else.
No. I'm just, I don't even think. No, I don't even think back in the mid 90s I would have wanted to see them do that. In the late 90s, I don't think, because.
Well, cool. Then you don't have to go, and I will, and it'll be great.
All right.
Kev likes the zag.
Oh, you motherfucker! You sneaky ass motherfucker!
I know. I thought Tim actually did it, and I was like, "Oh, he's playing with it tonight. Okay, cool."
You motherfucker! Oh man! All right. So listen, what I would ask Trey.
Thank you, Taco John.
Taco John, don't encourage him. We don't need any more encouragement for this motherfucker. I gotta stop cursing. We're gonna get flagged by YouTube.
Oh boy.
I actually think I would ask him about like one of the major flubs. Like I was thinking about 12/29 this past New Year's run where they screwed up Gaiuti, and like you're sitting there in front of 20,000 fans and everything. A great show, just complete fire, and then like your fingers aren't working right and you can't remember the words. Because like I have such anxiety when I'm playing music in front of people of like, am I gonna fuck up? What are people gonna think? And like that's like the biggest scale there is. And to be stuck in that, and then you could feel it compounding, right? Like I don't know if you guys remember that show, but it was like one mistake turned into two, turned into three. And I would just love to know what's like going through his head and how he moves on from that, and how he will then how he can then go on and have a good end of the show. Because to me, that would end my show. Like,
would you have the balls to ask him about Glide at Coventry?
Coventry?
So what were you thinking here?
But I think younger, well, I don't know, it probably goes both ways. Like when you're younger, you just don't care because you're like, all right, move on. And then as you get older, you're just more of a professional, like any actor or whatever. When you forget lines on stage or whatever, you just kind of, all right, improv and blow through that and get to the next one, get back to what I remember and make sure we can like keep going and hope the rest of the band. I mean, at this point too, I'm sure the rest of the band is so locked in with everything anyway. They just kind of like, all right, we fucked that up. Keep going. Like, move on.
Yeah. I like this Michael Palmer guy. He's now contributed 4 different topics that we've talked about. I like this. The worst show you've seen. I don't want to dwell on it because I don't want to be like a negative Nancy.
Can I do non-Phish? Because one time I saw
Radiators?
Van Morrison, the Radiators, Van Morrison, and Buddy Guy. And Van Morrison came out, played 3 songs, was so drunk, got mad, threw something at the footlights, and walked off stage. And then Buddy Guy came out like early and played 3 hours.
When he
something.
says
Buddy Guy was
footlights, he's talking about those old candle lanterns that they used to put
at the base
on
of
the stage.
But yeah, Van Morrison was just drunk and nasty, and I was like, dude, I paid $25 to see you, man.
That's one of those guys I never want to meet because I love his music, and I would hate to have a bad experience with him.
Oh, he's got to be a complete douche.
I imagine, yeah.
A mean drunk.
If you want to come on, Van, if you want to come on sometime and counter this, we are more than welcome.
Van Morrison's going to come on wook+.
Yes.
Okay.
That would get some numbers.
Benz, what was your worst show?
It's hard to say. I don't feel like there's nothing that stands out as being like particularly bad. Well, from Phish.
That's fair and probably makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like there have been times I've gone to shows, not Phish, and been let down. I mean, and there have been times I've gone to Phish shows and like, I don't remember exactly what show it was. It was one of the last Phish shows I saw in San Francisco. And it was like the second or third night of the run. And the second set was just so fucking boring. And it was like disappointing because I think I was only going to a couple nights of it or something. And it was like the first night had fucking rocked. And then the first set was pretty great. And then the second set was just this snoozer. Yeah. And I just remember being bummed, like, oh, that wasn't the night I wanted to have, like, kind of thing. But, you know, that's more on me than them.
I could be home with my cat.
I don't have a cat yet. Not yet.
Kevin loves this fucking cat.
No, my cat, the cat and I have no relationship, and I named it Catherine so I could call it Cat.
So you could call it Cat anyway, man.
No, but I didn't want people to think I was an ass and just didn't name it. So now people...
You were worried you're going to offend your cat?
Right. No, if someone came over, what's the cat's name? Oh, Cat.
Did you ever call her Kathy?
I call her Cat.
What if she wanted to be called Catherine, though?
Yeah, Benz, haven't you been listening? They did it so you could call her Cat. Come on.
The cat was named Lily, and they gave it 3 different names once we got it. So I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to call it what I want to call it.
Confuse it even more.
I don't think cats are like dogs. I don't think cats know. I think they just know that you're walking toward the food.
No,
so they better come over and cry.
You ever watch that show Sandman? I think it's on Netflix or whatever. Oh, man, a fucking great show. But there's like
horror?
I don't know. It's like this like thriller sci-fi. I don't know. It's cool. It's based off a comic book. But the last episode is like the perspective of a cat and how like humans used to be like their plaything, but then through will alone they changed it. Anyway, none of you have seen it, so I'm off on a tangent alone on an island, and people are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It's a good show though. I highly recommend it if you need a recommendation. My worst show, I actually had a good time. But I'm embarrassed to say that I had a good time because I listened back so many times, like not so many times, but I listened back and it was literally the worst Phish I'd ever heard was Charleston Night 3. And I'm like, it'll go down in infamy.
Another Coyote.
Yeah, that was like the apex of the shit, but there was a lot of other shit that supported that Coyote shit. Yeah, I don't know, man. Coyotes must be a tough song for them. That was a very, very tough song. Tough show.
I think you have to practice it. I mean, when they used to play Coyote, they played it all the time. So they were basically constantly rehearsing it. Now it's once every 30 shows, and Trey's like, how the fuck that go?
Right. The muscle memory's not really there either, just to like play it back. But that was a good call, Will, because that was, when you think back, that show was brutal. Watching that show and listening to that show, and you're like, Jesus, this is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and it never recovered because he has... Like, I'm thinking Deer Creek, either last year or the year before, there was, like, a really bad rift, I think, or Reba rift, right? And, like, I was just saying 1229, they had the bad Coyote, and there's lots of shows. Like, SPAC in 16, they had... But, like, they always recover, and it's not, like, it's a nice thing. But, like, Charleston, I felt like they, like, hit it, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And they're so good, and they're so perfect all the time. It's fun to be like, all right, they had a human moment where it sounded, like, really bad. Oh man. So what's the next one? We gotta keep moving.
93. Was it 93?
Oh, yeah, 93.
I failed at listening to 93 today, like I said I would.
Yeah, me too. So why don't we let the olds Benz, why don't you and I sit back and let the olds take this segment?
Yeah.
Well,
So while I was 8, you guys were at Phish shows getting mind blown.
My thing with 93 is if you go back and listen to it, it's famous for what, like the Mike's Madness with all the teases, and they did an Antelope and the Gin from Riverport. It was the year that they took their structured songs and learned how to break them apart. Like there's a You Enjoy Myself, they end up playing an Owner of the Lonely Heart in the middle of it.
I need to know that one.
Yeah, so I'll also have to, I think it's Right Jim, maybe 3/14/93. I'm doing a Brinkman here.
I'm making a note to ask you about this later.
I think my favorite show from 93 was the animated X-Men series on Fox.
Bring it back.
Yeah, the only show I saw was that was the first year I saw him. So 93 Red Rocks was my first show and one of my favorite ever shows. So that's to Kev's point, like those shows from then on, from that through like 96, I think. Hey, it's a
That's
ghost.
such a badass shot. Just like shadows and smoke.
Goat. What's up?
What's up? How are you, buddy?
Hi guys.
Oh,
How you
hey.
doing, man?
Oh, I'm gonna have a cone with you, buddy.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on
got him.
93? What's your thoughts on 93? Waddy?
It's fucking Wody.
I can't believe you're still fucking up the verbiage, man.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. It's Kev.
Fucking Baltimorean bullshit.
Now it's just his bit.
Kev, say it as William Shatner or Sean Connery.
Yeah.
The Empire is always ex Walty. That's my warm-up phrase for Sean Connery is the Empire is always in peril from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I think a lot of 93 is straight gas, to be honest. So I don't know what you guys were talking about.
What are some of your favorite moments? What stands out in your head if you were sending someone to 93 to listen?
I mean, one of my favorite things ever about 93 is the 816 Reba. The greatest Reba ever, in my opinion. And then there's the New Year's Run Hood.
Right.
Just like legendary shit. I mean, off the top of my head, but that 816 show has a lot of gas in it, actually. So,
and what Riverport was the night before that or 2 nights before that? They had the August 93 was just every show you should listen to.
What is it, like 17 shows in that month? And
yeah,
I think
ended
like
with the Red Rocks, maybe
15 out of the 17 are just like incredible
classics.
I think maybe this year, since we're on the 30th anniversary, I'm going to listen to the 93 shows on their anniversary because I almost hesitate to admit it, but for whatever reason, 93 is not a year I go back to often. Like I go back to 95 a lot. I go back to 97 a lot. 97 is probably the year I go back to out of 1.0 the most, right? Some 99. I actually been doing a lot of 2.0. And then, of course, I listen to the shows I've been to. But, like, I mean, New Year's 93 I've listened to a couple times, but it's not a year I go back to that often. I feel like that would be a fun next thing to do this year.
They only played through August, too, and New Year's. In between that, they recorded Hoist. So there's a whole – it isn't that big of a load. Like 94, I think they played 140 concerts or something, which is insane to try to listen to.
Kev, you want to do that this year? We'll listen to it.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do a little microdoses or something. We'll just get on and bullshit about them.
Do a 93
missed
bracket.
a bunch already.
Yeah, 93 bracket would be sweet. There you go. To go along with
93
it.
started already, though.
Somebody call young Ryan. Give him the idea.
Oh, shots fired.
Shade thrown.
I love it.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think that would be cool. What's up, Wody?
Also,
I'm going to still call you Wody.
worth.
I know Ben's is Wody, but, like, you're also Wody. I just know you as Wody.
Well,
It's
once
like
a Wody,
president.
always a Wody. Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
It's an exclusive club. Once you have a green jacket, you
I
always
mean,
have
for
a
what
green
it's
jacket.
worth, it's also the 20th anniversary of 2003. which was the comeback from the original hiatus. And
right.
February is a pretty hot month for.
That's probably the best out of 2.0 was February. It was kind of like downhill after that.
I don't know, man. There were a lot of good shows in July. Obviously, the beginning of August was fire with it. December there were some good shows in 03, man. I don't know if I would agree with that. But just saying.
When's the BB King night? Isn't that coming up? The anniversary of BB King? People malign that show, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was better than George Clinton.
Oh God,
that's about all I could give that show. But
right, Trey loves BB King. Trey I mean, you could tell the affection. He's like, I'm sitting here with BB King.
You can't pass up an opportunity to play with a legend like that. Like, fuck what people think about that show. Like, I get it. If I were Phish, 100% do the same thing. They would have been dumb.
It wasn't terrible.
Pull up a chair, BB.
Right?
Who do you think their favorite sit-in was, and what is your favorite sit-in?
Ooh, man, Ben and Jerry's for me was my
brother.
Sit-in. That was awesome.
Yeah. For brother, that was probably the best sit-in ever because it lasted 28 seconds.
That's good. That's a good call. The Kid Rock one was.
Oh man. What Jennifer Hartwick's doing the song doing Girls, Girls, Girls was pretty neat.
I like Scotty Morawski in 99 Great Woods. That appearance was pretty cool.
The John Popper one. When was that?
Popper did a lot.
Yeah.
That one
the one where he crashed through the trampoline.
Yeah.
Phish wrote a song with John Popper, which the name is escaping me now, but I saw
Phish
him do it
the band
once.
or Phish the drummer?
Phish the band wrote a song with John Popper, something about Leave You, and I saw John Popper came out with him at the Bayou one year, and they opened up the show
any of
with
you
it.
guys?
Huh?
He has me blocked or something on Twitter.
You blocked most of Phish Twitter. That was before my time, but I've heard this story.
David Crosby blocked me, and I'll never get unblocked now.
Well, he's dead now, so
that's kind of tragic. I feel bad for you.
Essentially, Earth blocked him, or at least Life did. Sorry,
Life blocked him.
Me.
I thought the Bruce Springsteen sit-in at Bonnaroo 09 was really cool. Although it's weird because you can't find those songs anywhere. Like you can find the sets from that festival, but they took out
because Bruce was like, no.
He's like, fuck you guys, you ain't playing this shit.
The Phish should get Nugs in that because he works with Nugs too, releasing shit.
Yeah. That was like one of those really exciting sit-ins where like when it's happening.
I don't know. I was at one of those shows.
Oh man,
which one?
Do I remember which one?
I feel like that's a question for Osiris. Like you might be watching the wrong show if you want us to.
If you're trying to.
I
was not really into it. I had a girlfriend and.
Wait.
Trying to crash your program.
No, you ain't crashing. You're fucking.
We are only going to be on another 5-10 minutes. Hang out.
No, well, yeah. No, but Scoot, I want to talk about rumors because this is like our new thing. We become like rumor sluts on the channel. And
you're like the TMZ for Phish?
Yeah,
totally. It's exactly.
It's like we post a really profound, well thought out written piece and we get like a couple hundred views, and then we say Phish rumors and we literally read fishrumors.com on the air.
90,000 people click.
Right. It's like thousands of people like, oh my God, this is brilliant journalism. But it's also interesting. I mean, this is the prime time of year, right? January, February is like we're getting ready for summer tour now.
My theory is that Trey announced the 2 shows. Then today he announced another one. I bet he announces more shows into July.
You're sticking with that.
Tour is pushed back.
That you're doubling down on that take.
I am doubling down on that.
Doesn't that kind of like contradict your microdose? Where
it does. It contradicts everything we've done all year. Kev's being a giant dick about it, and I was like, "Hey, man, we've had rumors for months now that Phish Tour is going to start on 7-Eleven," and he's like, "Yeah, I don't care. I'm changing my mind."
I think you got to stick to one side or the other here.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
It's evolving. It's like when you're 12, if you write I am 12, are you lying when you're 13 that you wrote I am 12? No, you've evolved.
You revolve,
You are allowed to change your mind. It is your prerogative as a human being.
and I'm
It's
allowed
my
to
right as
say
an American.
you are very
Exactly.
wrong, and that's a terrible
Exactly.
take.
I mean,
No, we are not 100% on Baker 16, or at least I'm not.
Nah, I'm not sold either.
No.
the
So-
percentage has dropped off quite a bit.
Percentage? Are y'all placing like bets on?
Yeah, it seemed like a certainty after the New Year's run and like the whole thing. And
But I will say, for whatever it's worth, the best sources I talked to, because obviously people have been talking about that shit for months, but like people that I felt actually would know were very, very clear in saying they didn't know the number of days or any of the specifics. All they knew was that
there was a residency for sure.
was a multi-show residency. A contract was signed with MSG
MGM.
Entertainment.
Right.
So that's
Well, so
Vegas.
that could be Sphere. The
It
Sphere
could be
thing.
the
Vegas.
Sphere.
Yeah.
It could
It could be
be
both, split between Sphere and MSG.
It could be both. It could be multiple runs at MSG. It also could be, what's the fucking venue that Tab played in during the pandemic?
in
Or
LA. Oh,
No,
the
no.
Beacon?
Beacon.
Beacon.
MSG Entertainment owns the
way.
Beacon.
Yeah, Phish
Are
isn't
they
playing
real?
it.
They couldn't play the Beacon, man.
No, I know. I'm just saying there's like other options
Yeah.
out there. But I don't think I do think 16 is going to be hard to pull off with the current rumors. I think the 6-pack or like the 8-pack is a possibility, or the multiple shorter residencies. Like, I think they're definitely playing MSG more than just New Year's this year, but I don't think the 16 is the leading contender anymore. But so the
I'd
current
give all that away for a festival, to be
Fuck
honest.
yeah.
With you.
Fair enough.
100%.
I'd much rather just a festival and fuck the whole garden run bullshit. Like, just do like a week long. I don't care if you play
Just a
4
Burning Man.
out
but
of the 7 days, or do whatever you got to do. Just let's get another
Burning
fucking
Man.
festival going.
We could have it here in the desert. I've got 17
Right.
acres, guys.
Santa Fe.
Yeah, no, I'm talking like maybe 6 hours or less from where I am. Fuck all your noise out there. Like...
No, I've never been to a Phish festival, so I would love to go to one. Imagine if, like, I already went off on a tangent about lot side quests. Like, the side quests at a festival are next level.
Unbelievable.
That's so true.
Think.
That's so true. That would be awesome.
Oh, it's so great.
So let's talk real quick about these tab shows, and I'm gonna just cut Kev off before he continues with his asinine theory. I think the July shows actually reinforce the Phish rumors, because he is going up until the weekend before 7-Eleven with Tab, and then I think it actually makes perfect sense to then continue on with the Phish tour on 7-Eleven. And I think he would schedule it that way to get warmed up and to be on the road. Because if you think about like the interruption to your life and like going on tour for him, it's like, let me do one and then the next and just have one summer run. And I think the Alabama and the North Carolina and Alpharetta, like that start on that week makes perfect sense. It lines up timing wise with all the previous tours, and I'm very confident that they're going to be playing on 7-Eleven in Alabama.
So do they play straight through till Dick's, or do they
No.
play for a month, mid-August, end in mid-August, and then come back?
They'll
Dick's?
play. I think they're going to play until the first week of August and take the rest of August off,
And then do
and-
Colorado.
and then do Dick's.
I think
And
the second week of August they'll play through. Like the 15th will be the last show, and then like, or I don't know where the weekend lines up, but
I think it's
somewhere-
like 8-4 to 8-6. And then I tell you what,
and then Dick's the start of September, right?
right. And I don't think they are going to have a festival this summer, because
No,
The
not
thing
this
with
year.
festivals
I want
is
them to, but I don't think so either.
right, because of like permits and shit, people would know. But they could do one in December. I know this is now me just being like a super, like I'm trying to will it into existence.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me.
What, that's okay. Speak it into existence.
I need
Let's go.
summer shit to happen.
Well, with
Can't
the
do
40th
this
anniversary being on what, December 3rd, Kev, you know this, right?
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
second,
Yeah.
but just not. It's not feasible for me.
Okay, but
Oh.
So
Okay,
for
what about the
my
rest
own
of them?
Can't do
selfish
it.
reasons, they need to do a summer festival.
fuck all you Phish fans, you ain't getting a festival because Scott's like, I
know,
don't
we're
want it.
Well, we're probably not getting one anyway, but we can all hope.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
fuck
would
it.
love a New Year's in a warm place instead of always in New York.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Miami.
I mean, yeah, anywhere. Shit.
Fucking
But see, that's
Cuba
what I want.
Libres and
selfishly, so.
Cuba Libres and a little Coke on the side.
Mojitos.
And I
Oh,
notoriously
shit.
claim that I don't do Phish rumors, so you guys are welcome.
Nah.
I mean,
Well,
I think
we,
everybody also
Here I
always
am
talked
sitting
about
here
coming back to
speculating.
India would be the best.
India,
Like if they could
yes.
just do, then we'd have desert
I'd be
and
fucking
heat.
down for that. I'm
and-
in. Sold.
Do you get Santa Anas there?
You get the desert wind. It's a little
Yes.
far that way for the Santa Anas come from down through the mountains into the valleys.
Okay.
That's out in the desert.
I only know that from a Steely Dan lyric that they exist.
Cool.
Here come those Santa Ana winds again.
All right. Well, on that note,
Sing us out, Kev.
make sure you guys like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I'm gonna do something a little bit more selfish and a little more vulnerable. So please be gentle with your criticism. But I recently
Comment.
So it's like a midlife crisis or whatever. Recently got a band together and we're just starting out, but in the credits, I put a clip of us playing this past weekend at this little studio thing. So if you feel inclined and want to listen for a couple minutes, you could check out my new band. There'll
Look
be more
for 'em
shit
soon
coming
around
out.
Philly. Look
Yeah,
for 'em
we're gonna-
soon. They'll be playing out live.
Hell
We're gonna
yeah.
have some shit soon, and then check out this channel. We'll have a lot more content coming.
Thanks, Wodies,
Scott.
for coming out.
Alright,
Good
cool.
seeing you,
Yeah,
Ben.
Yeah, thank you
Ben.
for
I
having
love
me.
you guys.
Good
Thanks so
seeing you,
much.
Ben.
Real
Good seeing
quick.
you, Scott.
All right, we'll see you next time.